Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another of Tim's amazing evenings, all the things you are. Tonight's event is, his subtitle for it is Stories of Spirit, Stories of Living. And over the course of his concerts, in between his wonderful piano playing and around Judy's reading, Tim always has a little bit of storytelling to do that just touches the heart and the soul. You know, we're here tonight to support the food ministries of St. James. And when I think of our food bank, which is the biggest and the most costly and all of that of our food ministries, I'm always reminded of stories. Some of the stories I can't really share because they are, you know, stories about people and so on that it's not for me to tell their stories. But I really enjoy, I try to remember every week to send out a little update to all the food bank volunteers. And so often we have some wonderful story, little graces that we encounter as we're welcoming the people who come to our food bank and as we're getting their food together for them and sending them on their way. And stories of people who are struggling with life, but struggling with a lot of courage and a lot of spirit and often a lot of joy. You know, when I think of the fellow who comes, he walks many blocks to the food bank on feet that, well, there's not much left of his feet because when he was homeless, he lost them to frostbite and he can barely walk, but he comes in usually with a big smile on his face and just brightens everybody's day. Or the people who are saying, no, that's all right, I don't need that. Leave it for somebody else who needs it more than I do. Or the people who are giving each other rides, or the people who are picking up food for somebody who's sick and can't get out, and on and on and on. And I love the stories, too, about our volunteers with the people. Just this last week, just the kind of thing that warms my heart. We had, we close at 11 o'clock on Tuesday mornings, and at about 5 after 11, I was going to lock the door, and there were 3 people just at the door, a couple with a little one, about a year old, in a stroller, and another man that had come along with them. He'd been there once before. The couple with the child were new, and they had 2 more kids at home. And that's one of the changes we've seen over the past 2 or 3 years, is we're seeing more and more and more families with children coming to the food bank. Anyway, they came in and everything had been put away. People were getting ready to get their coats on and go home, and most of them have other things they need to do. And they just, well, I kept on working on getting the door locked and things like that. And I came in, and the volunteers were all just in a circle around this little family and talking and chatting. And sharing recipes and talking about all kinds of things and making sure that they had enough food and all of that sort of thing. And it's that human connection that we make there that's often so important to people. And I'm so proud of our volunteers, the way they welcome and treat people with respect and become friends with the people who come. So it's a great, great ministry to be part of. Food security is a big problem in our area. It's a big problem everywhere. It's hard to put numbers on it, but in Perth County, it's estimated that about 15% of people are food insecure, meaning that they, because of, and it's defined based on food insecure because of lack of money. They're food insecure because their lack of money may be because of disability, it may be because of unemployment, it may be for all kinds of reasons. A lot of people who come to food banks have jobs. Some of them have full-time jobs, but it's not enough, the wages that are paid for them to feed themselves and a family. And so about 15% of people can't rely on having enough healthy food every day for themselves and their family. And most of them experience days where they have to skip a meal, or they have to do without food in order to pay a bill, or the adults do without food to feed their children. And that's a reality for so many people right here in this town. So thank you for coming out and supporting this tonight, because we'll have a great evening, but it's also really doing it's not solving the problem, but it's reaching out and keeping people cared for who are struggling with the problems that our society creates. Our food bank never closed during COVID. We were open every Tuesday morning from the time COVID arrived until it hasn't really left us, has it? We went through all kinds of different ways of doing it, but we did it all the way through because people were hungry all the way through. So let me just tell you a little bit more. Most of you know Tim and Judy, but let me just tell you a little bit more about who it is that is going to be giving you this beautiful evening. Tim is a retired Anglican priest. I didn't know that priests retired. I thought they just kept working. And I think Tim, he's busy. He's the coordinator of our jazz vespers here at St. James. And people and music, he says these are two of his life interests. And after 25 years in parish ministry in Toronto, Tim began a new venture as a vocational coach and musician. He's an author. He wrote Clarity and Courage, Life as an Improvised Journey, and it's in its 3rd edition. He's a member of the board of directors of the local community food center. He's a volunteer with SALT, that's Stratford Anglican Lutheran team that does refugee sponsorship, and we just recently received a new family of Syrian refugees. And he and Judy moved to Stratford from Toronto in June of 2015, and we are so glad they did. And they have 4 adult children and 5 grandchildren. Judy If you don't recognize her face and you don't recognize the name, as soon as she speaks, you'll recognize the voice, because for 30 years, she was the voice of CBC's World Report every morning. So most of us have spent a good deal of our lives listening to Judy on the radio in the mornings. In 1990, Judy produced the first public reading of the Charles Dickens A Christmas Carol with CBC readers, and that expanded all over the country. We've done it here many times. Judy received the Meritorious Service Medal from the Governor General in 2016 for her work. And currently, she's a partner in a company called Sound Portraits, and they record audio memoirs for families of people's life interests. So storytelling again. So, Tim, I turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Am I audible in all parts of the auditorium? Thank you for coming tonight, and thank you, Tom, for your kind words and important work that you and the good people in the community at St. James are doing. It's a thrill to be here and to play this piano. I'll say more about this piano a little later, but this is one of my dreams, to play this piano in this space. This for me is part of my prayer, my freedom, my expression, and I'm thrilled to share it with you tonight. We have a plan for a little evening of readings and music. I play popular music. We'll sing some sacred stuff a little later, but I play popular music because God so loved the world, the whole world, the whole world. And so I always love to think about offering the music of the world to God. That was called I'm Beginning to See the Light by Duke Ellington. I'm beginning to see the light, the story of my life and my marriage. And it's a wonderful thing to play Duke Ellington for you. I'm going to play another Ellington. This particular piece is called Come Sunday. And it's from a huge work that Ellington composed during the war. It was premiered in 1943 at Carnegie Hall, 80 years ago. And it was rarely performed ever after, but there's one 32-bar passage in this larger three-movement work called Black, Brown, and Beige, which Ellington composed to tell the story of the African Americans and their struggle in the United States. And this 132-bar segment came to be known as Come Sunday. And he wrote it especially for Johnny Hodges, his alto saxophone player. This particular piece has gone on to become a wonderful piece that was featured in Duke Ellington's many sacred concerts. I'm going to quote from a book, the spiritual biography of Duke Ellington. I quote, "His papers at the Smithsonian Institute suggest he had a picture in mind. He was thinking of an African man who was brought to America as a slave. He painstakingly teaches himself to read from a Bible. There he finds something to live for, that God is a God of compassion and justice who knows his pain and will bring comfort and vindication. The picture that Ellington imagines is a secret outdoor gathering of slaves on Sunday morning while their white masters and mistresses are in church. Together, they share the word of God in whispers and long for the freedom openly to express their profound love and joy. The song evokes a longing for some good beyond our pain and its simple beauty, like a slender thread of hope." Unquote. So here is Duke Ellington's Come Sunday. Simply beautiful. So, I forgot to tell you, this will only be about 3 or 4 hours. Is that okay? Yeah. No, we planned a little hour-long program, so we'll finish about 8:30, and Judy will read something in just a minute. So I'd like to play a medley of four Gershwin songs. Someone to Watch Over Me, The Man I Love, Embraceable You, and I Got Rhythm. But before we do that, let's just sing a little bit. So I need the low voices. The words are open my heart. Let's all say that together, please. Open my heart. Okay, the low voices, usually gentlemen. Open my heart. Open my heart. Once more. Open my heart. Okay, thank you. Don't go away. I'll be right back. Middle voices, open my heart, please. Open my heart. Open my heart. Okay, thank you. Don't go away. Right back. High voices, open my heart. Only you get 2 notes. Open my heart. Open my heart. Okay, high voices, please. Open my heart. We're going to put it all together, and if there are any really high voices that could sing Open My Heart, that'd be lovely. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Open my heart. That is called a 6th chord. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it's a beautiful chord. It's my favorite chord. Let's do it once more. 1, 2, 3. Open my heart. we play the piano, we play music, we play. And one of the things we lose as adults is the sense of play. And to have fun, to play. And when we play, there are no mistakes, because if we're playing catch and you drop the ball, well, that's not a mistake. You just didn't catch the ball. We're just playing. Now, I see some members of our little band here. Can you put your hands up? We got Dan back there and Steve. Who else have we got? And Beverly Moranger, our singer, is here. Thank you, because when we do music together, we play. And it's just such a gift. Well, speaking of gifts, I know that one of my great gifts is my wife, Judy Madron, and she's going to read for you now.
I gave him a script. Because the funds from this are going to help the food bank, I chose some poems with food as the theme. And the first one is by Robert Frost. It's called Unharvested, and it speaks to the sense, the scent of food. We often underestimate what that scent does for us, how it draws us into a meal. How many have ever gone out on the front porch when the turkey's in the oven so they can come in and really smell the turkey? Well, this one is about the scent of food and the gift. It's called Unharvested. A scent of ripeness over a wall, and come to leave the routine road and look for what had made me stall. There, sure enough, was an apple tree that had eased itself of its summer load, and of all but its trivial foliage free, now breathed as light as a lady's fan. For there had been an apple fall, as complete as the apple had given man. The ground was one circle of solid red. May something go always unharvested. May much stay out of our stated plan. Apples or something forgotten and left, so smelling their sweetness would be no theft. And the next one that I've picked for this section speaks to the security that food gives us. The turkey, that annual piece of food, is a security. It's okay, it keeps happening. So this is called My Father's Lunch, and it's by a poet named Erica Funkhauser. Saturday afternoon, he'd sit at the kitchen table in khakis and a work shirt, white napkin, a beer, the serrated knife, pieces of prosciutto or head cheese or kippered herring layered on slabs of black bread. Outside, the ripe hayfields or the stacks of shutters of the forest needing to be cleared or the snow needing to be pushed aside lay still as they waited for him to finish his lunch. For now, he was ours. Whether he smelled of chokecherry, tractor oil, or twine, he'd washed his hands with brown naphtha soap and splashed water onto his face and shaken it off like a dog. He'd offer more ham, more bread to anyone who sat down. This was work too, but he did it slowly, with no impatience, not yet reminding the older boys that he'd need them later, or asking the smaller children if we'd stored the apples, or shoved last year's hay out of the wonderful window to nowhere. This was the interlude of nearly translucent slices, of leaning back in the smooth wooden chair and wiping white foam from his lip as the last beads of beer rose calmly to the surface of the glass. We could see it was an old meal, with the patina of dream going back to the first days of bread and meat and work. All our lives, my brothers, my sister, and I will eat this same meal, savoring its provisional peace, like the peace in the grain room after we'd scooped the grain from the bins and the sticky oats and the agitated flakes of bran had slipped back down into the soft valleys where they would remain until it was time to feed the animals again.
You may know that as Nature Boy, a beautiful, beautiful song. It was written by Eden Ahbez, A-H-B-E-Z, in 1947. And he was part of a group of what we know of our generation, hippies in the 40s. And they were camping out under the Hollywood sign in Los Angeles, and he wrote this song and somehow persuaded Nat King Cole's manager to give it to Nat King Cole, who then wanted to meet him and then recorded it, and it became a huge hit in 1948. You may know the words. There was a boy, a very strange, enchanted boy. They say he wandered very far over land and sea. A little shy and sad of eye, but very wise was he. And then one day, one magic day, he passed my way, and while we spoke of many things, fools and kings, this he said to me: the greatest thing you'll ever learn is just to love and be loved in return. The greatest thing we will ever learn is just to love and be loved in return. Well, I want to talk about this piano, because when you're a piano player, you're always playing somebody else's piano unless you're at home. And when you're a piano player, you come to know where the good pianos are. And it's not just the piano, it's the setting. You could have the world's most expensive stereo in a closet, and you could have an inexpensive recording device and in a room, and it's the resonance, it's the sound, it's the feel. This is a Yamaha C7. It's a 7.5-foot concert grand, and it came to St. James during the time of the Reverend John Spencer, when he was rector here from 1985 to 2003. And he told me this, that a woman in the congregation promised St. James a lovely piano, and told him she was very serious about that. And then sadly she died. And John put it out of his mind because she had died. And sometime later her son came and said, now about my mother's piano. We want to honor that. So this piano came here during that time, and it was given by Isabel Sim and her family in thanksgiving for the music at St. James. It's just an amazing, amazing piano in this setting. And the Yamaha 7-foot concert grand has these ringing tones and a beautiful, beautiful bass. You can hear the bass. And the pieces I've chose to play tonight are to illustrate the range of this piano, the 88 keys, up and down, and the whole dynamics of the piano, whose proper name is piano forte, piano soft, forte loud, because they needed to invent something that they could alter the volume on, because harpsichords only had one volume. So in 1700, they invented the piano, and this is a beautiful, beautiful one. I could go on, but I won't, because I want to play this song. It's called the theme from Carnival, or theme from Black Orpheus. It's a beautiful song by Louis Bonnell, the Brazilian composer. It was for the movie in 1959 called Black Orpheus. And I just love this piece. When I was an undergraduate at Western University, one of my buddies was a reporter for the Western Gazette. And he dragged me out one night after dinner and said, we have to go, I have to cover a concert, I have to write a review for the Gazette. And he took me across campus at Western to this concert hall, and it was freezing rain, it was an awful night, and nobody showed up except him and me and a half a dozen people. It was a classical guitarist on the stage. His article, my friends, was called The Man in the Silk Suit. And he played this piece. And you may have a piece, I bet you do, that you can remember where you were when you first heard it and how that song has gone into your heart. Here is Theme from Black Orpheus. Judy for some more. Would you like to hear Judy read some more, please? Okay.
I have two more. This one is a short one called Feast by Edna St. Vincent Millay. And it's not about the sense of smell. This is about anticipation and how anticipation adds so much to a meal. I drank at every vine. The last was like the first. I came upon no wine so wonderful as thirst. I gnawed at every root. I ate of every plant. I came upon no fruit so wonderful as want. Feed the grape and bean to the vintner and monger. I will lie down lean with my thirst and my hunger. And the last one I have is a little bit of fun. Part of my work at the CBC was being the language lady, advising on pronunciation and usage. And the English language is a challenge. As anybody learning it knows. So this is a play on words. It's by a poet named Jack Prelutsky. It's called I Wave Goodbye When Butter Flies. So I'll be going slowly so you get them. I wave goodbye when butter flies and cheer a boxing match. I've often watched my pillow fight. I've sown a cabbage patch. I like to dance at basketballs or lead a rubber band. I've marveled at a spelling bee. I've helped a peanut stand. It's possible a pencil points, but does a lemon drop? Does coffee break or chocolate kiss? And will a soda pop? I share my milk with drinking straws, my meals with chewing gum. And should I see my pocket change, I'll hear my kettle drum. It makes me sad when lettuce leaves. I laugh when dinner rolls. I wonder if the kitchen sinks and if a salad bowls. I've listened to a diamond ring. I've waved to a football fan. And if a chimney sweeps the floor, I'm sure the garbage can.
Paul McCartney, credited to Lennon and McCartney. And on the album Help, that was the first solo that the Beatles did. And it's just such an incredibly beautiful, beautiful melody yesterday. So we're coming toward the end, and I'm wondering if you might sing with me. And in your pews, you'll find a blue book. And would you turn to 24? Abide with me, 24. 24. The big books have the music. The little books just have the words, but we all know this. And I love this hymn because it's about abiding. It's about abiding. In John's Gospel, Jesus says, "In my Father's house are many," and we know the word mansion from the King James Version, but the word actually in Greek is abiding places. Menain. In my Father's house are many abiding places. And this hymn came from the Emmaus story, and it was written by Henry Francis Lyte as he was dying of tuberculosis in 1847. And we're going to sing it to the tune it's most often sung to, the tune called Eventide, which was written by William Henry Monk, an English organist. He also wrote the music for All Things Bright and Beautiful. Abide with me about abiding. Now the problem is, we don't sing it much anymore because we don't have evening services, and we do sometimes sing it at funerals. Well, it's about abiding. It's about hope. It's about looking forward and into the light. So here's how I'd like to do it. I have a little road map. We're going to sing verses 1, 2, 3, and 4, and unison on the first and unison on the last. But if there are some harmony singers, and I know there are, so feel free to sing harmony on verses 2 and 3 and 4. After verse 4, it'll be my turn for a bit. I'm going to take some liberties with this great tune, and you'll know when it's time to come in for verse 5, because I'll point or something. So abide with me. Well, we're coming to the end. I've got one more little piece to play. I'm very sad that it's over because thank you. It's a wonderful, wonderful time to be together and to sing from our hearts and to hear words and to be together and in this sacred space with this beautiful, beautiful instrument. So I'm going to conclude with my theme song, which is the title of our little concert, All the Things You Are. I've told this story many times, and it's one of those stories that keeps working away at me. So here's the story. I was invited back to my former parish to preach at the funeral of a woman I knew. I just left, like a few months, and it made sense for me to come back. My replacement was doing everything else. I just had to preach. And I knew this woman, and so I typed up my best funeral sermon. And all I had to do was preach. I mean, what a relief. I just have to show up. I knew this woman, knew the family and everything. So we sang the first hymn. Everybody sat down. My replacement invited the son to come up and say a few words about his mother. And I was right behind him. I could see he had bullet points. It was wonderfully short. Sometimes these things aren't. But anyway, it was wonderfully short. And there were bullet points. And he said the first thing about his mother. Oh, well, that's interesting. I didn't know that. Second thing, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. And I could see in the congregation we didn't know either, because we don't know. And I have a wonderful sermon ready. So while the choir sang "The Lord's My Shepherd," I did what I do when I'm worried. I turned worry into wonder. You can try it sometime. It really works. Instead of I'm worried about how it's going to turn out, I wonder how it's going to turn out because it hasn't happened yet. So why worry when we don't know because it hasn't happened yet? So I sat there and no kidding, what came to me because I turned worry into wonder, I opened my mind up, my heart up to wonder. What came to me were these words, all the things you are. It came to me as a gift. And so when it was my turn, I stood in the pulpit and told actually this story because I also knew the congregation didn't know all these things about this wonderful woman. And this phrase came to me as a gift, all the things you are. And I vaguely knew that there was some music associated with it, but it wasn't until a year or so later that I put the words by Oscar Hammerstein II together with the music by Jerome Kern. This piece I'm going to play to conclude is just a profoundly beautiful piece. What Jerome Kern does with this piece, All the Things You Are, is simply amazing in terms of the music and the way it moves and so on. So I'm going to leave you with this piece. Judy and I are so grateful for the time together. We're so grateful for the food ministry of St. James and what Tom and others are doing here, and so aware of how if we all pull together, we can work toward food security in our community and beyond. So I leave you with thanks for the privilege of playing this beautiful piano, your listening ears, your presence and support tonight, and all the things you are.
And I was sitting there thinking, I wonder what I'm going to say when this is done. Well, Tim and Judy, I certainly don't know, we certainly don't know all the things you are, but what we do know is that you have a great gift for bringing us comfort and a bit of joy and beauty and just feeding our souls with your music. And Judy, you just have a gift for bringing us poems that just touch the heart and make us smile. And we need a lot of that these days. Thank you. Thank you, thank you so much. Thank you for bringing your gift to this good cause of helping people